Hello, my name is Matthew, and I believe we're on part 3 of my 6K Q&A video series. Thank you again, and we'll just get right back into it. We have Chad M. Congratulations on 6K. What would you change about your reading choices looking back a year or so? I ask this because you said that you're a slow reader. Were there classics that you read and felt were a waste of your valuable time? Um, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't say that. I felt like I had a pretty pretty good year. If I if I think about just like this time last June, I believe last year I read Lonesome Dove, which was just incredible. I loved reading Lonesome Dove. Um, Now I'm gonna forget all the things that I read. It's a good thing I make these videos because I have a terrible memory. I don't regret what I'm reading, and uh, I I'm not the kind of person that if I'm hating something, I just keep hammering away and hammering away. If I'm reading something difficult, um, but still finding rewards, then I don't mind difficult. But um, if it does feel like a waste of time, then I just would put it down. Um, but I would say I feel pretty good about my reading. Um, Someone else mentioned that I'm constantly rereading, which I am, but I'm also pretty consistently reading new things as well. Um, so thank you. Ann P. It's another party horn. Uh, Hi, congratulations. Thank you. Here are my questions. A book on gardening that I read recommended Voltaire's Candide. That's funny. And then went on to give a synopsis because it was making a point. So should I try Candide anyway? Why? Can you recommend a readable translation? I just thought I saw Candide. Um, I can't seem to find Jason Harrigan's channel anymore. Did I miss something? Uh, if you haven't already answered why the erratic uploading, no pressure. I'm just an erratic watcher. So what was the first? Um, so should you read Candide? Um, I don't know. I love it. If you read the synopsis, then you know we have kind of this young, wayward, um, innocent character, Candide, and he's living in the grandest castle of all the castles in Westphalia. And there's the king and the duchess, and I think that's the duchess's daughter, and um, he's getting all of his instruction from the philosopher Pangloss, and Pangloss is this absurd um, character. I think supposed to be like a caricature of Leibniz, another philosopher at the time, but Pangloss's philosophies would be well, the reason that we have noses is for our spectacles to sit on, and the reason that we have legs is for our trousers, and um, what was his line? Like all for all the worlds, we live in the best possible world. This is the best possible of all the worlds. This is the best possible world, and so he's filling Candide with this idea of like, oh, best of all possible worlds, and very quickly, and it's an extremely fast-paced book. It's a romp. It just races, and it's a slip of a thing. Very quickly, Candide gets caught like feeling up the Baron's daughter, or they're kissing or whatever they're doing, and he like literally boots him out of the greatest castle of all the castles in Westphalia. And then we have a series of adventures. We follow Candide on his travels. He gets stuck with a military troop, and at this point, this is when misfortune after misfortune just start hammering down on Candide. Tortured and brutalized and whipped and beaten. All the while, he'll have like boiling acid poured over his head, and he goes, "Oh, best of all possible worlds." Uh, he runs into these soldiers somewhere, and he's asking about Westphalia and the castle, and he goes, "Oh, how's the castle?" And they go, "Well, these marauders came in and they pillaged and plundered the castle, and there's not one stone on top of another stone." And he goes, "Well, what about the king and the queen, or the baron and the baroness?" And they go, "Well, they're dead." He goes, "Well, what about the daughter, the oh, what was her name? Now I can't remember, because he's after his one love. I can't remember her name now, but there's the girl that he loves, and they say, well, "What happened to her?" And they go, "Well, she was disemboweled and raped to death." And he's like, "Oh, but what about the best of all possible worlds?" He comes across this beggar, he's like a stinking, wretched beggar. He's got leprosy. He's coughing. He's spitting out a tooth with every cough, and it turns out that it's Pangloss, his wise Pangloss, and they get together. They travel around. They finally end up in El Dorado, and it's finally a nice place. It's a secret place to get to, but they get there, and they're eating like hummingbirds and all these strange things, and the sand is made of gold and rubies and gems, emeralds, pearls. All of the dining is all of these beautiful things, and they live in a utopia, and they're finally group. It's Pangloss and Candide and some other people. Um, they're finally meted with kindness, and they're served food, and they're said, "Oh, you can live here, and we'll take care of you," and everybody contributes, and everything is fair, and they're looking around and seeing they're scooping up all these jewels, and the people of El Dorado don't even understand it. They're thinking like, why are you so interested in all this dirt? They place no value on it. Well, they get it in their heads. Let's load up sheep and go back out in the world, and we'll be kings and queens, and we'll be the rich, important people. And the people of El Dorado are saying, like, well, you've told us about the world that you came from, all of the suffering, all of the torture and misfortunes, and prejudices and the discriminations and the imbalances of good and evil. And they're saying, like, this is a good place, just stay here. And they're thinking, but what about the jewels and the wealth? So off they go. The king of El Dorado or whatever sends them down a river with these sheep packed with gold and jewels, and promptly, like, the sheep are dying and drowning. They're losing sheep. They finally get down to one sheep. They make it back to somewhere in Europe or whatever. Promptly get swindled. The last sheep gets stolen, and they're back to just being left with absolutely nothing and getting tortured again. It goes on and on. Towards the end of the book, we have another philosopher who's the counter to Pangloss. through all of this action, it's just loaded with sarcasm and wit and one-liners, and um, through inserted throughout all of these events. There's like these underlying there's an underlying satire, and we get to the very end, and they're sitting there and they're eating what are they? They're like candied like yams, or now I can't, apricots. I think they're eating apricots and pistachios. And one of them is like they're sitting there eating these apricots and pistachios, and they're reminiscing about all of the bodily torture and harm, and people that have died multiple times. There's no one in this book that dies and doesn't immediately come popping back. You can get hanged, quartered, shot, drowned. You'll just show up in the next chapter. So characters have died multiple times, and they've been starving and dying of thirst, and they're horrifying. And they're eating their candied apricots and pistachios, and they go, you know what? Having these apricots and pistachios really kind of makes it like it was all worth it. And they go, ah, yes. One must just tend to their own garden. The end. Really, it's so straightforward. I've read multiple translations. I can't remember ever reading a bad one. I would recommend finding something free online. Yeah, Jason has his own relationship with YouTube. I think, at least at the moment, it wasn't really what he's interested in. I don't want to speak for him, but sometimes he has a channel, sometimes it comes down. But as far as I know, there was no event. And I think you mentioned the erratic uploading. I think I've kind of covered that as well. Spent 12 minutes talking about Candide. Let's see. What is the most popular classic book that you have yet to read? How often do you read nonfiction? I read nonfiction fairly often. I read biographies. I've been spending a lot of time reading Roman history. I found a lot of the Roman history stuff that I read, I don't really make videos about, because I'm still just missing so much that I need to speak articulately, especially with not having notes or anything. I have made a few, but I always feel like I can't remember facts or figures or names or places or dates. That it's tough if you can't remember those things to try to speak sensibly. But I do read nonfiction. Then a popular classic I've yet to read, well, The Tale of Genji, which is an Eastern classic, is really high up there. It's one of those books that's like 1,500 pages, something like that. So it's an undertaking, but I do want to get to that. I mentioned the Trollope novels. I don't really have anything that I have like on my sites as like a major classic that I haven't read. I'm not saying I've read all of them, but for the most part, at this point, the classics that I've known about, I have gotten to, but keep learning and finding about new things and carrying on. Let's see. Okay, we'll stop here and then we'll come right back.